To say to people, Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so you see right now, we're in a place where, all of this injustice is not going to stay limited to, the communities who have historically suffered, right? But now you see it's expanding, right? And we have reproductive rights, LGBTQ rights, and in some places we're even banning books. Students are not apathetic. Young people in these communities are not apathetic. They're undereducated about all of this. My name is Angelique Hinton. I am the executive director of PAUFO and the president of the Norristown NAACP. They really needed assistance in helping young people, especially in the school districts that we're going into, which are communities of color, low income and underfunded school districts. They needed help helping those young people understand why they should be voting in every election. And so we founded PAUFO to provide that why. And to connect dots for young people in these underserved communities, historically marginalized communities, help connect the dots between all of the issues that are impacting them on a day-to-day basis, and how voting and policy and holding leaders accountable and advocating is really critical component to actually getting to a place to address those concerns. Do a lot of racial equity work where I go into more affluent communities who have seen government work because they know how to hold leaders accountable, really urging them to do more to hold their leaders accountable, to making sure that communities like the ones I come from are actually feeling responded to and reflected of, in our government. To say to people, Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so you see right now, we're in a place where, all of this injustice is not going to stay limited to, the communities who have historically suffered, right? But now you see it's expanding, right? And we have reproductive rights, LGBTQ rights, and in some places we're even banning books. Students are not apathetic. Young people in these communities are not apathetic. They're undereducated about all of this. And they grow up to be adults who don't understand how government works, but live in communities because they don't understand how government works, they're not participating. And then in turn, the elected officials are not prioritizing their concerns. And it's this cycle. At the end of the day, elected leaders want to stay in power, right? And if you are not a threat to them staying in power, your community will not be a priority to them. After this general election is really start to break down for young people who does what, how to find out who their leaders are, right? Mapping it for them, the issues they care about to those leaders, and then helping them, get experience in testifying to school board, testifying at council meetings. How do you get on the agenda and then make public comment? So people who are not, if they care about democracy, they also should be going to those meetings and saying, we want to see more equity and more quality, because that's when you will see more people participating, right, in these elections, and you will see policies that are responsive to and leaders that are more reflective of, this entire country, and not just those that they feel are going to vote. I think that, we all have a role to play in making this country what we want it to be, and it looks different for every person. That you can create change as young people. You can look back in history. Young people were at the forefront of the civil rights movement, right? And so young people are powerful, right? It's just really helping them understand the power of and getting confidence in, using their voices constructively in whatever way. But there's a lane for all of us, and we all have to play a part. Right? President Obama always says democracy is not a spectator sport, and that is true. I'd say is education, right? Pennsylvania was found unconstitutional in its funding practices. Big problem, because they're not learning at an early age how this is all connected to their lives and why they should care about this messy thing called politics. Right? Then there is, you live in these communities that are underfunded. So then you have the lived experience of seeing government continue to fail to meet the needs of your community. Montgomery County is beautiful and wealthy, right? Except for in, where the Black people and brown people live. And so they have seen government not respond to them. They have no recreational programming. Their library is falling apart, right? And they have seen themselves represented, at a much higher level in the criminal justice system. So there is that experience, regardless of who has been in power, nothing has gotten better for us. You can take 2020, right? We made a lot of promises to Black people, right? And then we had an election. People waited in line for hours because they were told, we get this election and things are going to change, and then nothing changed. A lot of the work we do too is making sure that, when we're engaging, we're meeting people where they are. I've been at summits where they're like, well, people should just read the Constitution. Sadly, many of the people I'm engaging are graduating at a fourth grade reading level. Tell a story. Zion, who we worked with in 2020, he was going through a really hard time. He had lost his house to a fire. And he would barely turn on his Zoom when he first started working with us. But little by little, he felt the community. He started going to voter registrations in the community. He loved that. Came back, he went to college, came back his second year. And I said, you're going to do the press conferences this year for the organization. And he said, what? No, he was nervous. At the end of the summer, we ran Civic Day for the Office of Youth and Engagement in Philadelphia, do a presser with the mayor of Philadelphia. And when I tell you, he walked up there, Zion, and did his speech and walked off like a boss. It was incredible to watch. I mean, I was in tears, and the press followed him, and he gave after interviews. And then he is now today, he is the president of the student body at Penn State main campus.